Very happy to be joined today with the Honorable Mayor of Meridian, Mississippi, Percy Bland. Percy, thank you for joining us. You were the first African-American mayor in the history of Meridian, and that was 2013, which seems like 1.5 million years ago. Heck, last year seems like 1.5 million years ago. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're going to spend about 8 to 10 minutes talking about, obviously, what's going on in Meridian and what's going on in your life. I know you've been an incredibly busy man.
Yes, sir, Marshall. Thank you for having me today, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to talk about Meridian, and I'm just ready for this interview.
Oh, excellent. And let's just go ahead and start off on a really positive note, because Meridian, Mississippi is the center of the universe right now, at least for the fans of The Voice, because
That's right.
One of your residents, Todd Tillman, of course, not only won, but I think he won in grand fashion and inspired a lot of people. So I know y'all in Meridian are incredibly proud.
We are, after the event, Marshall, my wife and I and Laura went out to see him at the temple. Then we went to his church, and Todd is a great guy. He's an inspiration. He's a very, very humble guy. A lot of people don't know he's the oldest winner on their 18 seasons with The Voice, being 42 years of age. And, he has 8 children, 2 adopted. He pastors a local church here, but he's just a high energy, high spirited guy. But he has given us right here in Meridian a great boost in the arm with winning that. A lot of people supported him locally, and everyone here at 10 o'clock, once they finally announced the winner on NBC, was just jumping for joy. So we're really excited in this city. We're excited for Todd, and we're just going to look at where his career goes from here.
Yeah, it's like I said, you said about him being older, but I think the thing that his voice was fantastic, but I think his energy on stage really made a huge difference. I know he inspired me. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to try to approach life with a little bit more gusto. So.
That's right. So yeah, we're still, he still hadn't really understood. It really hadn't hit him, I think, what has actually happened. He did a couple of interviews yesterday, and I think it'll probably be next week before he really understands what he really did.
Yeah, he said that his wife made him take the kids to Disney World first. So good luck with that. He's going to spend all that money on hamburgers down there. So
that's right.
We might as well just go ahead and talk about the other thing that's going on in the world, the virus and COVID-19. And a lot of people don't know this about you, but you actually do have a background in public health. You got your master's in public health from Southern Miss, and you went over to Atlanta and worked over there. Yep. You were an epidemiologist for a while too.
Yep. Yes, sir. I worked at Fulton County Health Department in tuberculosis control with the CDC a lot, and we worked in some of the highest risk areas in Fulton County. Basically working as epidemiologists for tuberculosis control. And our outbreak here, it hit us, for 15 days or so, we didn't have that many cases at all. And then boom, it just kind of escalated. First of all, we weren't doing a lot of testing. And at the time, we did not know we had outbreaks at several of our long-term care facilities.
Right.
Right now, we're number 2 in the state in total cases after Hinds County. And Marshall, I really, I keep telling everyone here, because we have 15 people working in our health department that are going out as case managers and contact tracers, basically making sure that everyone who is COVID positive is getting tested and or being quarantined at home. We have a very strong team. We have a lot more people that are actually being tested. We had so many people on the front lines in the healthcare environment that got COVID positive. We had some serious outbreaks on the staff side of some of these long-term care facilities that escalated our numbers. And and we're number 1 actually in the state of Mississippi in deaths. We're approaching almost close to 50. We're at 47, I think, right now. But the bottom line of it is, when it first happened, we still had some very stringent rules as it relates to shelter in place. We were the first city, the first county in the state to go into shelter in place about 4 or 5 days before the governor started his statewide. This area being the major hub for healthcare, all of these counties that are right here by us still come to Meridian and our 2 hospitals for healthcare. So this area has kind of been a hot spot, but a lot of our numbers actually still came from people on the front lines, working in some of those environments, and the fact that we've had over 20 nursing home facilities be affected with an outbreak. So that has escalated our numbers. We're fighting hard right now, Marshall. I tell people in our community, half of our cases right now are those cases with African American females between the ages of 18 and 49. So we have still not opened up our basketball courts around town. We still have certain restrictions in place in our community with certain things on the parks. You can walk around the parks, but you can't play basketball and stuff right now. So we're working very hard with our healthcare providers to try to limit exposure as much as possible.
What do you think drove the initial numbers? Because I remember that, because that was when the governor was very hesitant to do a shelter in place, and y'all were the first ones. I remember Dr. Dobbs was saying, okay, Lauderdale has to be. What do you think was the initial push that started it all?
Our outbreaks at our long-term care facilities,
yeah,
and some of the people that got it from there, and the fact that we weren't getting tests, and we started getting our tests. It was such a high percentage of those tests coming back positive. And it took us a while before we got our first death. But when we got our first death, it kind of continued to escalate. And I talk to the coroner all the time here. And, he tell me for the most part, most of our deaths are, those people that have been in those long-term care facilities. We've gotten a couple people under the age of 45 now that have had deaths because of this COVID-related illness. But the bottom line of it is most of our issues came from those outbreaks in those long-term care facilities.
The governor has, and Dr. Dobbs, and you did with an executive order, have, required people to wear masks, but more or less, please request. You initially had an enforcement component to it. You have since backed off on that. Do you still feel like people need to be wearing their masks?
I do. We backed up on the enforcement because so many people at our businesses, the business folks were, it was hard for them to police it. We were having some issues that were about to happen and happening inside of businesses that I did not want to, put them in harm's way trying to enforce some of our mandates. And some of those had escalated. So what I told the business owners, if they have issues, please call the police department because, there were big confrontations at some of our businesses, and I didn't want, because a lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people are mentally not in their normal space.
Right.
I just did not want it to be an issue that was bigger than the $500 fine or the $250 or whatever the fine was going to be for that person. Someone else getting hurt or injured or too many confrontations with. So we backed off on the fine piece of it, but we continue to push all of our business owners to make sure, that people wear their mask in their buildings and make sure that all of their team members and staff are wearing their mask and to call us and let us police those issues if they have a client who's coming in for a service or product that doesn't want to put the mask on.
You touched on something there, the mental health component to all this. And I mean, trust me, there are days when I feel like the walls are closing in around me. I think we're all ready. And that's the good news about the parks, being able to get out and get some exercise and be able to just feel like you're still breathing. But I mean, there's also been another component to this, obviously, is the economic collapse. And I think that's why a lot of people are stressed because, you look at the job claims every week and the high number of unemployment. How has that affected your budget, and what are some of the things that you're doing in Meridian to adjust to the lack in sales tax, to be honest with you?
Well, Marshall, that's one thing, we still have our fingers crossed. We just got our March numbers, which we're 2 months in the rear. We got those numbers on May 15th, which was last Friday. And as far as our budget right now, we're about 0.3% off of where we were this time last year. And in our total budget, we're right at 1% off of where we were last year. And that's with missing half of March. Now, for April, we get those numbers June 15th. So we're all keeping our fingers crossed so that we don't have to do furloughs and mass layoffs and all that type of stuff like a lot of other cities have kind of already done.
Right.
We're kind of blessed to be in a situation here that we have a diverse work base. We have a diverse structure of how we get our sales tax dollars. We're not, we're not basically limited to or dependent upon big universities or these major employers, manufacturers, or whatever it is to bring in all of our sales tax revenues. We're kind of diverse. I think that has helped us the last 2 months, because really we had a lot of activity in April. And, when we get our numbers in June, which we have 4 more months in our budget year period. Our budget year period ends September 30th. So we have June, July, August, and September. We're going to, we start meeting with our council within the next 30 days for next year's budget. We will probably reduce our budget some, going into the next 12 to 14 months. But the bottom line of it is we have not had to make any drastic moves right now because of where our March numbers came back in at, and we're really happy about that. One thing, our hotels have gone from about 70% occupancy to 25-30%. Restaurants have only, of course, been able to do curbside service, and our major malls were closed for 2 weeks in March. So, feel pretty good off what we've seen so far, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed as there's been more activity opening here in May. So we're gonna play it by ear. But since we get our numbers 2 months in the rear, we kind of try to forecast out way before then. And we talked about furlough days. We've talked about, we have not had any additional hires. We've had a hiring freeze. And we're cutting back on a lot of our major purchases until next year's budget period.
When you're in the position as a mayor, it's like your job is already a 24/7 job. And I'm sure since then it's been 10 times more stressful. What are some of the things that you're doing personally to kind of keep, healthy and sane and, keep going?
Riding a bike with my son and wife, shooting basketball with him, and throwing baseball. And my daughter just finished our graduation. So, just making sure that she's mentally ready to get ready for next year, and, just spending time with them. We're talking about issues that are coming up in city government even after hours. So I tell them sometimes, guys, don't call me. I'm putting my phone down unless this city is burning to the ground. Don't call me. And I just try to have time with my family and that sort of thing. And I'm a big sports guy, so we haven't had a chance to compete and go to those things. So I just spend a lot of time with my son, pushing him to do better. He keeps me in shape by working me out when I work him out. So that's about it.
I was reading up a little bit on some things that have been going on in Meridian. And of course, I'm looking forward to when Marshall's Mississippi tour can come out to the Max.
We're ready.
I can't wait till we can do that. I love the Max. It is really one of the crown jewels in the state of Mississippi. But I noticed that, back, I guess it was maybe February, you had a big public, hearing on the 22nd Street renovation, and you were going to plant a bunch of landscaping and everything. There was some controversy. That seems like about 5 million years ago, doesn't it?
I know. Listen, you won't believe this. We just got out of a meeting for the paving part of that this morning, and hopefully they're going to go forward and make that happen. We have the Children's Museum that's going to be right there on Cela Ward Parkway. We've changed 22nd Avenue to Cela Ward Parkway. So we have a lot of work that's about to go on there. We're going to possibly have some more restaurants right there coming into Cela Ward Parkway before you come over the bridge. They're about 4 or 5 months, 6 months away from opening up the 3-foot, which will be a 3-foot Marriott, our downtown hotel. And they're going to have a nice bar area on the rooftop. So when you come here, we'll have a glass of wine up there, and then the Max. So, I got to call the people at the Max to see when they're ready to reopen, because I think they should be getting some information soon to let museums reopen in the state of Mississippi. So, we're looking forward to that. We're ready for you to come back. And when you get here, we want to take you around to some of these places, because the construction on those major projects never stop.